Okay, I'm Annie.
I'm Charlie.
My name is Mikkel.
My name is Maddie, and we're with the Cotter News. Our school is grades 7 through 12. What kind of music were you into at the age? And do you have any advice for young musicians?
Well, I was really into ska music at that age, like the Specials and the English Beat and the Selector. And it was really fast-paced dance music, so it was fun to hop around with. And I was kind of a hyper child, so it was good for me.
Let's see. I was into a weird combination of old folk music and acoustic blues and The Clash and other punk music like Husker Du and The Replacements and stuff like that. Is listen to music as much as you can and listen to a lot of different varieties of music and, be open to all music.
Yeah, I would just say don't dismiss a type of music because there's really talented people doing all kinds of music, whether it's classical or pop or rock or jazz, and that it's all out there for you, and all of it it's like having a good meal. Sometimes you're in the mood for pizza and sometimes you're in the mood for something else, so don't dismiss it out of hand.
Can you tell us about your songwriting process?
I don't really have a process, I guess. Songs kind of come up when they come up, and I kind of write them down. And I guess the process is in I get an idea, and I start writing down, lyrics, or even just a story that describe that idea, and then I start to, change it into a song. Sometimes a melody kind of occurs to me around those lyrics, sometimes not. And songs are never done, though. They're never written. They're always, for me anyway, they're always kind of a work in progress. So I can go back to a song that I wrote 10 years ago, and it's still presenting me with some kind of new opportunities, even if they're subtle. So I kind of try to stay. Stay open to this process, that it's an ongoing process, and there's never going to be a product at the end that is finished. And that's personal, for me. It might not be that way for any other songwriter in the world.
We noticed you sometimes post about your dog, Reuben. Can you tell us about him and his habits or one of his adventures?
Reuben is a little schnauzer, and she's actually a girl whose name is Ruby. But she doesn't look like a Ruby at all. So I started calling her Reuben, which now she answers to Reuben. And she's my walking partner. We walk everywhere together. And for the most part, we don't really have a route. A few years ago, I started stopping telling her where to go, and I just follow her now. She's on a leash, but I just go where she wants to go, and we stop and smell stuff and look in alleys and go up and down whatever street we want to go on. And it's not really an adventure, but it gives me an opportunity to just kind of relax and meditate. And she's something else. I've always had a dog. In my life. Ever since I was a little kid, there was always a dog in the house, and it just feels like an important part of my life.
We read that you did work with the homeless. Can you tell us how that affected or influenced your music?
Mikkel still does, and I worked with Mikkel when I did that, and it affected everything about me. I worked on a truck that serviced people who couldn't get into the shelters for one reason and another. They were living outside all year round. And I remember my first day of work, we spent most of the day at one location where something like 15 or 20 people lived outside, and we provided them with a little bit of food and and resources, if whatever resources we had, but it affected every part of my life, not just what I say in songs, but it affected kind of how I react to the world, and it affected my politics, and it just affected a lot of stuff about me, and I've been really, really grateful for that opportunity ever since I held that job. You want to say something?
Just, I would say one of the interesting, I don't know if you call it a paradox about life, is that when you helping other people helps yourself. The best way to not be depressed is to do something for somebody else, even though you can feel like you're trapped in your own feelings and your own body and your own emotions. One of the ways to free yourself is to actually serve the community, to do something for others. And people who are homeless aren't any different than anybody else. They're not a separate group of people. They just happen to be very, very poor. We all have issues and problems, and we always will through our life, but it's our ability to help each other and reach out that really frees us, I think, in a lot of ways, to get out of ourselves and our own problems.
What was a cool venue you played at overseas?
There's been a lot of those. I guess recently I was in Australia, and I played at a theater in Australia in the Central Coast in a small town that would have been an early silent movie theater that had been converted to a music venue, and they did a really nice job because they retained the look of a theater. It looked like a theater, and they just had music there now. But I've been really, really lucky because I've gotten to see a lot of places like that, and spend time in a lot of unique kind of locations that people have taken the time and care to make into venues, and really nice ones too.
Last year, Spider John Kerner played at the MWMF. We heard he was one of your inspirations. Can you tell us about how he influenced you?
That would take a long time. Spider John is one of the biggest influences on me that I think there is, but I think the biggest influence specifically that he had on me was his attitude towards folk music. John is a living embodiment of the folk music process. The folk process is an idea that says we've got these songs, and some of them are ancient, some of them are super old songs, and the way we keep them alive is that we bring them into ourselves, add ourselves to the song, and then put them back out in the world again for the next person to take on and do that with. And John has done that to such an extent, that he's the first person that I saw to play that I really got that. I got what the folk process was all about. Like he's a cipher. In the guitar world, we call a guy a cipher when he's like one of one. He can play the way he plays. He's the only one who does it that way. And he's also, kind of that way with some of the songs that he's taken and reinterpreted are so unique. They're almost like Spider John compositions, even though they're old folk songs. And that's the primary thing that I learned from John.
Back in October, me and my band played at Ed's, and then the next day you played there. So we left a giant key there, and then the next day he presented it to you. And yeah. And then my question is, do you still have it today?
Yes, that key is proudly displayed in my basement with all my other stuff down there that I keep kind of all my music here in the basement, and that key is on the wall. I'm proud of that key. Thank you. That's amazing. Oh, that's very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. See ya.
Hey, Charlie! Hope you take good care of the key.
Come back to Ed's often. If you're wondering, here's how to get the key to Ed's.
I'll make it to the promised land. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When you hear that trumpet sound, gonna get up out the ground. Ain't no